Hello and welcome to Tigersheet. In this video, I shall show how you can create automated workflows that do away with the need of manual intervention for your day-to-day business processes. So here I have an example of a simple employee expense management. There's a sheet called employee expense claim. Let's first try to understand the different columns present in this sheet. Now, the different employees in the organization are going to submit a request for claiming their expense. So for this purpose, we have employee name. Then there's a claim type. It's a drop-down column field where the different kinds of claims like food, travel, internet, other, etc. are present. We have a date column. There's a claim amount, which is a currency column. And then there's a different kind of payment modes, such as direct bank transfer, payroll cards, checks, etc. So this is the structure of the sheet. Now let's try setting up a workflow for this particular use case. So here I can find there's an option called workflows. I'll click on it. Now we need to understand the different kinds of workflow status for this use case. Once an employee submits a request for a particular claim, there can be 4 different possible scenarios. The request can be pending, it could be approved, it could be rejected, and once approved, the payment could be released. So I'm going to quickly add the different kinds of statuses in this scenario. Now once I've added all the different 4 status, the next part is workflow start status. This is going to be the default status for the new record or new claim request that will be submitted by the employee. So in this case, I'll set it as pending approval. Once this is done, I'll click on next. Now the next step is to select all the possible straight transitions. So once a request has been pending for approval, it can either be approved or it can either be rejected. So I'll click the checkboxes accordingly. Similarly, if the request has been approved, the next step would be that the payment would be released. So after the payment is released or the request has been rejected, there's no possible straight transition in this case. So we can move to the next step. We are going to add conditions for each possible transaction. So I'll click next. Now this is the place where you need to add conditions for each possible transition. So the first transition says pending approval to approved. Now the first option says permissions. Now you need to choose the permission as to who will be able to make this transition. Now there are 3 options available. Let's say that the account manager within the department has the authority to mark a request as approved. So let's select a particular role, and that is going to be the admin. So I'm going to select admin. Alternatively, you can select certain specific users, or you can even select a user from a column, whatever the situation be. Once this is done, I'll click save. So now there are 2 more conditions that you need to understand. Now let's say that a company policy doesn't let the manager accept a claim request, a food claim request that exceeds the value of ₹1000. So you want to disallow such transition without having to, check it. So in this case, we will disallow the transition. Now we just simply need to add the condition for disallowing. So my case is that all the food expenses greater than 1000 shall not be allowed. So let's choose the column name. That is going to be claim type. You can add multiple conditions using and or. I'll click and now I'm going to set the condition for the claim amount. So as you can see, I've added the condition, the claim type if is food and the amount exceeds greater than 1000, we will disallow the transition. Once this is done, I'll click save. Now there's another feature called auto transition. Now let's say that you want to automatically accept a request if it has not been accepted for a particular time. So in this case, if the request has not been approved, 10 days till 10 days from the date of submission, I'm clicking auto transition, which means that the request shall be automatically accepted. You can even add some other conditions for auto transition using these different options. You can even add a time-based condition. So these are the 3 different options available for auto transition. Let's save it. Now there comes another powerful feature called action. So when a pending approval request is changed to approve, you would want to notify the manager in the account department. So we'll click for more actions. We're going to add action to this transition. And this action is that we want to notify the admin that the claim has been approved through an email. So I'll click send email. So this is where you can configure the email. Now the first is the from field. You need to select your official Gmail account. Now the recipient field is basically addresses the recipient to whom you want to send this email. I want to notify the admin, which is the account manager in this case, so I'll choose it. If you want to add some additional recipients, you can even do that by clicking here. Let's choose email as a notification type. Let's add an email subject. Now the body of the email contains all the details of the email. The details of all the expense, like what kind of claim it was, what was the amount. So this shall be reflected in the email. Once this is done, you can click save. So for the transition that says from pending approval to approved, we have set permissions. We have set a disallow transition. We've also set the condition for auto transition. And we have sent an action. You have clicked an act. We have set an action that on success of this transition, the manager shall be notified about it. Similarly, for pending approval, you can choose the permissions and the same options. These are going to be same as in the previous case. Now for this transition that says when the request has been approved, the payment is going to be released. In this case, you want that once the request has been approved, the manager should select that mode of payment through which the claim has been, accepted. So in this case, I'll set an action over here. I'm choosing the action as set fields value of current row. There's a column called payment mode in my sheet. So you want the manager to choose a kind of mode of payment. So I'll click payment mode. And if you want the manager to select it, you can simply write ask user. So this will prompt the manager that as soon as the request will be approved, this will prompt the manager to enter the payment mode. Once this is done, I'll click save. Now, if the request was pending for approval and it got rejected, you want the manager to state a reason as for rejection. For that, you're going to add an action called click for more action. Let's say that you want to request for a comment. So you'll click request for a comment and you will save it. So once I've configured my workflow conditions for each possible transition, I'm going to publish this workflow. I'll click publish. And as you can see, the workflow has been published successfully. Now let's say that an employee is going to make an entry for a claim. I'll click on the option new entry. Or alternatively, there's an option called new entry here. I can click even that. So let's quickly add the columns and see how the workflow works. Let's add another entry. I'll click save and add new. So as you can see, these are two entries made by the employee, and suppose the first request is an internet Wi-Fi mobile type of claim for a claim amount of rupees 500. So the manager can approve it after checking that all the conditions are fulfilled, and click on mark as approved and click on yes. So as you can see, the action has been successfully executed, which means the workflow status has changed to approved from pending approval. And moreover, let's say that the payment gets released after approval. So I'll click on marks as payment released. And as soon as this is clicked, there's a prompt from the system to select the payment mode. Let's select direct bank transfer and click save. So this means that the payment mode, so because we had set an action on this possible state transition, that the set fields value. So the payment mode has been also successfully set as direct bank deposit. Now moving next, say the second kind of request is a travel claim request, and the manager wants to reject it. He'll simply click on this button says mark as rejected. And the workflow status will change rejected for this particular claim request. So this is how easily you can set up workflows in Tigersheet, and you can automate your day-to-day business processes, thus saving you a lot of time.